Hey guys, Dave here. Welcome to Centurion's Review, the punk rock band of wargame review institutions. This is ICBM, the microgame from Mayfair Games. This is from the 1980s, back in the golden era of microgaming. Essentially, I got this recently. It took me 2 years to find a copy, and I was able to secure an unpunched copy, so when I do play this, I'm just going to make a photograph of the counters and print them out on my printer and mount them and use those to play the game, because I don't want to make it unpunched, because there's probably not too many of these left in the world that are unpunched. I don't think this is the last one that's unpunched, but I don't think there's too many anymore. But this is a game about a nuclear exchange between the United States and Russia. Essentially, both sides fire their missiles into the air, and both sides have anti-aircraft missiles and stuff to shoot down missiles. Each turn you move your ICBMs, but they don't have to move. Some can just hover in place, which is absolutely absurd. I mean, a missile's always in movement, but that's one of the game rules for it. But let's take a look at the counters first. Actually, let me leave those in there. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty simple. They just got pictures of missiles or anti-ballistic missiles on them. Let's look at the map before we go through the rule book. The rule book's pretty short. Here you got the United States down here, and here's your missile launch sites. And you have the Soviet Union up there and their missile launch sites too. As far as on the map, it's got ABM range, an ABM combat results table, where you take into account the range to the missile you're shooting down and so forth. Here's a USA missile activation table. And over here you have USSR missile activation table along with an ABM table again. Here, I believe this is all Mayfair's microgames. The Castle, that's a good one. Transylvania, that's good. And here's ICBM. Space Empires, that's good. Richard I, the Lionheart, I have that one. I still haven't played it. I need to do so, though. Alright, let's take a look through the short rule book now. This is made by Neil Zimmerer. He probably is I'd say he's my favorite game designer of all time. He didn't make that many games. I think he made like 20 or something. But everything I've played from him, I've liked. And they've all been low on complexity and very playable. And that's what I'm really looking for, is a game I can get into quick and very playable. I mean, historical accuracy is nice too, but it's not my number one thing, though. A lot of gamers, historical accuracy is their number one thing. Alright, starts out with an introduction here. Talking about the game map. That's the strength factor of the missile, the number on it. And here's your anti-ballistic missile counter. It just has the site designation and a silhouette on it. Alright, here's how you prepare to play. Starting the war, inexperienced players should roll a die to determine who launches his missiles first. Higher roll goes first, and the other player receives 10 victory points for going second. So it may not be a bad thing to go second in this. And here's your sequence of play. Launching player rolls one six-sided dice and consults the missile activation chart to determine the number of missiles activated. On the first turn and the first turn only, the USSR may launch 14 missiles and the US may launch 12 missiles without consulting the chart. And you can flip up missile counters up to the numbers shown on the missile activation chart to launch them, and then you move them. And you have to keep track of how long the missile was in the air. It's got a duration, and if it's reduced to 0, it's removed from the game. Costs one to move from one hex to another, and they're moved one at a time. Here's the anti-ballistic missile rules. So basically you state how many you're going to launch, and then you launch them. US player is limited to 5 ABM sites. The Russian player is limited to 6. And then if a missile impacts a space, this is how you determine what happens. If you hit a city, the value of the city is reduced by the strength of the missile. And the missile remains on it to record victory points. As far as victory conditions, starting second, 10 victory points or whatever you bid. For each surviving unactivated missile, you get 1 victory point, so you may not want to launch all of yours. For each ABM round built, you get -2 victory points, so that's kind of interesting because you're losing victory points for having missiles which can shoot down missiles, but if you don't shoot down the enemy missiles, then they're going to get points, so that's kind of cool. And for each opposing city point reduced, you get 1 victory point. And if this difference in victory is 0 to 9, it's a draw, 10 to 19 marginal, 20 to 29 substantial, and 30 plus decisive. And they have some optional rules here too, but they said they haven't tested them. First one is you can put missiles in neutral countries. Second is have a hidden setup of the ABM sites. And third, a historical variant. The US has 2 ABM rounds. The USSR receives 20 ABM rounds. And the USSR launches first, and there's no victory point differential due to either first launch or ABM rounds built. This looks like a good one, and rules only take 5 minutes to read, so I will try this one of these days and let you guys know how it is. Have a good evening.